Hey friends, welcome back to our book club, Love and Responsibility, as we delve into the teachings of Pope St. John Paul II on relationships using Edward Sri's book, Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love. I hope that you had some great discussions last week. You had some time for prayer to make this practical, a lived reality as you seek to have deeper, more Christ-centered, more fulfilling relationships in your life. So this week, we're looking in chapter 10. It's entitled Men, Women, and Tenderness. Tenderness. We don't typically use that word to describe, I think, what this chapter is getting at, which is how do we properly show affection? If I'm dating someone, how do I really express that in a healthy and in a holy way? And I would say as a priest, I get most questions, if it's a dating couple for sure. Father, how far is too far, right? Once again, what's the right way what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing as I go about expressing my care and my concern for my significant other? So John Paul II uses this word tenderness, and he says that tenderness is found in the tendency to make one's own the feelings and mental states of another person. So at the heart of this is this idea, as we get to know someone better and we begin to care for this person, it makes sense that we begin to kind of experience with them their joys, their sorrows, their failures, their successes, right? Their experience kind of becomes our experience, so to speak. I think the perfect example of this, the most holy example, is that of Jesus and Mary. I mean, Jesus, for example, he's walking the Via Dolorosa, his passion, and he's suffering out of love for us. But, he's suffering. And who do we have? We have Mary, Our Lady of Sorrows, right? Her heart is pierced because of the suffering of her son, right? This motherly love. She's entering into the passion. She's living the passion with Jesus. And I think, so this is kind of like the perfect image of what I think tenderness is really all about. So this is similar in our relationships, in a less perfect way, obviously. And then, but it's not enough just to kind of experience it interiorly. We also want to express kind of a reaction. We want to express the tenderness that we feel. So in romantic relationships, you maybe a holding of hands, maybe an embrace, maybe a kiss, something along these lines. So there's a section of the chapter called Premature Tenderness. And basically he says, look, tenderness can be innocent enough and a good thing, but it also can be a tricky area where utilitarianism, once again, seeking my own pleasure, my own kind of selfish egoism, can creep in, right? It's tricky because, we care about other people, but sometimes it can get warped. It becomes more about me than about the other person. And this can really kind of quickly happen when it comes to showing affection for another. And John Paul II says, once the need to gratify one's own feelings begins to overshadow genuine selfless concern for the other, expressions of tenderness have crossed into egoism and will prevent love from fully developing. So it's kind of another way of looking at what we've already discussed, this whole idea of the sensual attraction that I feel kind of overshadowing this person who is physically attractive. And we forget that, his physical attractiveness is meant to lead me to the person, right? We forget about that. We just isolate and, the physical dimension of our attraction, and we act on it in ways that can be very damaging to what's truly good for the other. So this whole idea of tenderness is very similar to that. So why does this happen? Well, we're fallen creatures. And we need to remember this, guys. We need to have a healthy distrust of ourselves, concupiscence, our tendency, our inclination. Because of Adam and Eve's first fall, we now have this inclination to fall through personal sin. So we got to be careful of that. We just need to be aware. I tend to be selfish. I tend to, isolate and then, magnify the physical attraction I experience for other people, or the emotional attraction that I sense when I'm in another's presence. So we're fallen creatures. It's also because tenderness can very easily, expressions of tenderness can very easily flow from the subjective dimensions of love. We've already talked about this, but just once again, so the physical attraction that I feel, or the emotional attraction, those things tend to come kind of quickly, early on, sometimes just at first glance, right? And so this emotional charge that I experience because of these subjective aspects of love can very easily lead me to then act out or to express, that in a certain way that can be sinful, that can be not in keeping with the dignity of the other. And we forget we need to be more patient and wait for the objective elements of love to really kick in, right? Self-sacrifice, faithful commitment, right? Patience. So, these deeper objective dimensions of love take longer to develop. So what we can end up doing is expressing our tenderness in ways that's not in keeping with what's real. Right? We don't really love this person yet. It's just an emotional charge because he or she's really attractive, for example. And then you start expressing it, but it's kind of a lie because there's not a real love to back it up. So we need to be careful and aware of that. So once again, going too far. So how far is too far? I get these questions all the time. At the end of this video, I'm going to offer some very practical kind of what your dating relationship should look like, what it shouldn't look like, to kind of guide an answer to how far is too far. So one of the dangers is that very quickly, maybe you've experienced this in your own relationships, physical intimacy or expressions of tenderness can really kind of dominate the relationship, so that now whenever we're together, it's really about just doing what we got to do to kind of get to that point of now acting out in sexual ways or expressing our tenderness for each other, right? So what the sad thing is, the deeper aspects of love that lead to a really enduring relationship, like habits of healthy communication, working through our problems, growing in virtue, and helping each other grow in holiness, this kind of like falls by the wayside while we're just kind of, spending all our time just being intimate, so to speak, right? And so that's not good because it's kind of setting us up for failure. But at the same time, it's not a big surprise because kind of the sexual short-term gratification, it's a path of least resistance. It's easy to go down that road. It's much more difficult to say, hey, we got a problem, we got to work it out, we got to talk about it, etc. Right? So it shouldn't surprise us that this is the case, but we need to be aware because real love takes work, patience, and we need to be careful with our expressions of tenderness because it can corrupt and be very misleading. So this is in the context of kind of the dating relationship. We got to be careful about, expressing our tenderness in ways that aren't really real. But then he spends a portion of the chapter talking about marriage. And he basically says, look, when it comes to marriage, the problem is usually not that there's too much expression of tenderness. It's that, no, marriage and relationships can grow cold very quickly, and there's a huge lack of tenderness. John Paul II says, tenderness is the ability to feel with, and for the whole person, to feel even the most deeply hidden spiritual tremors, and always to have in mind the true good of that person. But sadly, husbands and wives can very easily just kind of grow distance. They lose that sense of care, that being with and for the other. I remember I was at Mass and there was like a marriage encounter, renewal of vows happening once. So, these are couples who have been married for like 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. I mean, they just invited everybody up. And the whole idea is that they hold each other's hands, husband and wife, and then they look each other in the eyes and they renew their vows. And the priest leads them through that. Well, you're looking at these couples. The majority, they can't even look each other in the eye. It's eerie. I don't know what it is, but they cannot sit there and literally look each other in the eye. The guy's looking over here and she's looking down at the ground. And I think it highlights this tendency that we kind of grow cold or grow apart. And anyway, it's an invitation to a deeper love. And that's exactly what Edward Sri and John Paul II are trying to, one that you really do feel for and you want to be with the other interiorly, and then you want to express that in authentic ways of tenderness. So John Paul II is big. He says, hey guys, women have a tendency to desire this tenderness more, and they actually have a right to it. So this is a real challenge for men. Maybe modesty was more of a challenge to women to really live it. Now the idea of tenderness, this is a challenge to men to really express and to listen and to be with their wives and not just provide for them in superficial ways. So in general, women desire and seek this more. They have a right to it. Why? Because a woman's emotional life is deeper than a man's. Right? So she has this emotional need to connect in a deeper way. And guys, you have to be there for your wife in that way. Why? Because a woman's she has a richer emotional life, and so when you enter into marriage, it can be more difficult for her to distance herself from some of her other like family relationships, her parents, siblings. And so as a man, you need to be there for her during this transition. And also, as women take more responsibility in the home and for children, I mean, that's not easy. I mean, childbearing, pregnancy, giving birth, caring for a newborn, nursing. I mean, all the things that go into that. I mean, it's insane. It's heroic. God bless women, wives. And so, men, you need to be attentive to this. You need to accompany your wife in this, not just, doing your own thing at work and care more about sports than you do your wife. And, you got to listen. You got to talk. You got to open up. You got to share. You got to Anyway, I think you see what I'm saying. It's a challenge to all the men out there. JP2 challenges men to do much more than to provide for their wives financially. They must enter into the emotional lives of their wives. So anyway, it's a call to men to really be there on a deeper emotional level for their spouse throughout the entirety of their marriage. So whether you're dating, whether you're married, this idea of tenderness and the way we express it to the other is really important. All right, couple do's and don'ts when it comes to dating. Don't travel together. Couples, they pretend like they're married and they're traveling around. It's not good, and it leads to sin, and it also leads to scandal. I mean, other people seeing you travel, you're not married. It's like, well, what's going on? It could lead others to sin. Don't be alone with each other at the apartment, etc. This is a big problem. When people come, oh, we went too far. Well, what were you doing? We're in an apartment. Oh, it was 10:30 p.m. at night. Oh, we were all alone. Oh, okay. Well, what do you expect? I mean, come on, guys, get real. No sleepovers. So I'll ask a couple, you guys living together? They'll say, no, we're not living together. But then you come to find out, like, they sleep over, like, on the weekends at each other's places. And it's like, okay, we don't live together, but come on. The whole point of not living together is not put yourself in the occasion of sin and not to give scandal to other people. So no sleepovers. And then no passionate kissing. These things start very small. One kiss leads to another thing and then another thing. And the next thing you know, you're committing great sin. And you're really corrupting this great gift that God has in store for husbands and wives, which is the gift of our sexuality, marital embrace, right? So you got to be careful. You got to draw the line and then step back from the line. So you're not pushing up against it constantly, because then you're messing around with each other's hearts and with what true love is all about. And don't do that. So typically err on the side of caution, and you'll never regret it. It'll only make your marriage that much more special. So just a couple ideas. Obviously, there's more we could talk about, but we got to go. Have a great week. My prayers are with you. God bless you. Stay strong. John Paul II, pray for us.